How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole. Carl Jung. Look at yourself in the mirror. What do you see? You see the person you are, the person you want to be, the face you show the world. But what about the things you don't want to see? The anger, the laziness, the jealousy, the deep-seated fears, the parts of you that you hide, even from yourself? Those are the things that make up your shadow. This isn't just about feeling a little grumpy sometimes. This is a powerful, unseen force in your life. A force that the great psychologist Carl Jung called the unknown dark side of our personality. And the truth is, the less we acknowledge this shadow, the darker, denser, and more controlling it becomes. By the end of this video, you'll not only know what your shadow is, but you'll have a clear path to integrating it, unlocking dormant potential, and finally living a more authentic, whole life. Trust me, the secret you'll learn about your shadow's positive side in just a few minutes might completely change how you view your deepest flaws. The unwanted guest. Understanding the personal shadow. The shadow is essentially the psychological basement where we throw everything we deem unacceptable, weak, or shameful. Think of it as your anti-self, the thing a person has no wish to be. If you pride yourself on being a patient, calm person, your shadow likely contains repressed rage and aggression. If you see yourself as selfless and giving, your shadow might be hoarding selfishness or a deep desire for recognition. We all have these undesirable traits. It's simply part of the human operating system. But instead of acknowledging them, we push them down. We deny they exist. We build a perfect, conscious ego and use all our energy to keep the basement door locked. But here's the problem. That energy is wasted. And worse, when you ignore the shadow, it doesn't just disappear. It becomes autonomous. It starts to run the show without your permission. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly burst out with a hurtful, hostile remark during a casual conversation, leaving even you shocked at what came out, or been plagued by inexplicable moods, chronic irritability, or a sudden bout of self-sabotage? That's your autonomous shadow, suddenly throwing open the basement door and acting out. It's like a backseat driver who suddenly yanks the steering wheel. When we refuse to own these dark parts, we do something called projection. We see them in everyone else, the person you can't stand, the one whose arrogance or assertiveness makes your blood boil. Chances are, you are projecting your own unacknowledged sense of arrogance or suppressed need for power onto them. They are simply holding up a mirror to the trait you refuse to claim in yourself. Wait until you hear the example I have coming up about the nice person. It perfectly illustrates how your kindness can be holding you back from amazing opportunities. You might be shocked at what you're missing out on. The hidden gold, the positive side of the shadow. For most of us, the shadow sounds like a monster, something to be fought and destroyed. But Jung's collaborators noted something crucial. The shadow is not necessarily always an opponent. It only becomes hostile when it is ignored or misunderstood. This is the biggest misconception about the shadow, and understanding this is the key to personal transformation. When you repress a trait, you don't just repress the bad version of it. You repress the raw, unrefined energy of that trait. Consider the person who was always told, "Don't be selfish, don't be rude." They internalized a belief that assertiveness is aggression. So, they repress their natural drive to speak up, negotiate, and define their boundaries. The conscious result is a nice person. The unconscious result is a failure to ask for a well-deserved raise or promotion, struggling financially because they can't negotiate a decent price, a chronic state of resentment and low-grade anxiety. When they meet an assertive person, they feel that familiar resentment and maybe even guilt. But what they're feeling is a painful longing for their own dormant qualities, the confidence, the self-respect, the ability to advocate for oneself. The shadow is not just a container for your flaws, it is also a huge storage unit for your unexplored strengths and potentials. It holds your normal, healthy instincts you were taught to suppress, realistic insights you ignored because they felt inconvenient, creative impulses you never acted on for fear of failure. When you explore your shadow, you aren't fighting the darkness. You are simply retrieving the gold that you accidentally buried along with the garbage. The heavy lifting, doing the shadow work. So, how do you start this process? This is what Jung called the realization of the shadow, or more commonly today, shadow work. It's not easy. Jung compared it to the labors of Hercules. It is a long, often painful process of self-education and radical honesty. It means giving up the pride of your idealized ego. Here are the two main pathways to begin. 1. Outward observation. Catching the projection. The easiest way to find your shadow is to watch your emotional triggers. What specific behaviors in other people make you disproportionately angry, disgusted, or judgmental? When you encounter someone you intensely dislike, pause and ask yourself, what exact trait is triggering me right now? In what small way do I secretly possess or express that very same trait? For example, if you despise a coworker for always seeking the spotlight and feel deep resentment, your shadow might be telling you that you've repressed your own healthy desire to be seen and recognized for your efforts. The work isn't to become a spotlight seeker, but to integrate a small, conscious dose of self-promotion and recognition-seeking into your life. 2. Inward exploration. Messages in the night. Your shadow frequently shows up in your dreams. The shadow typically appears as a character of the same gender as you, the inner critic, the villain, or just someone who seems to embody a negative side of your character. Pay attention to what this dream figure is saying or doing. It's often a painful, blunt criticism of your character from the unconscious. Instead of dismissing it, see it as a message you need to decode. It is a guide pointing out where you are out of alignment. The goal is not perfection, but wholeness. You will never eliminate your shadow, and you shouldn't try. As Jung wisely said, there is no light without shadow and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. The aim is to make the unconscious conscious, bringing the darkness to the light, so that you can command its energy instead of being commanded by it. The bigger picture, the collective shadow. Once you begin to clean up your own psychological basement, you become aware of a far larger, more terrifying entity, the collective shadow. Just as individuals repress unacceptable traits, so too does a society or a culture. The collective shadow is the unknown, dark side of a shared value system. It's the sum of all the historical cruelty, violence, oppression, and denial that a group refuses to acknowledge. We see the collective shadow at work when a society projects its darkness onto an outgroup. This is how genocide and mass atrocities happen. People who have failed to deal with their personal shadow, who have a lot of autonomous rage, frustration, and fear bottled up, become the perfect fuel for a terrifying collective fire. They fall into a kind of mass psychosis, acting out horrors they never would have believed themselves capable of under normal conditions. In this sense, your personal shadow is the bridge to the collective shadow. The collective shadow doesn't just manifest in wars, it shows up in the invisibility of current, systemic suffering, the widespread denial of historical responsibility, mass environmental destruction, or economic disparity that we collectively turn a blind eye to. The most common response to the pain of the past, from personal family trauma to national atrocities, is denial. We want to get on with things and put the past behind us. But this only makes the shadow blacker and denser. History repeats itself not because we don't know the facts, but because we refuse to acknowledge the emotional, psychological reality of the past and the present. Don't go anywhere. I'm about to share the single most important action you can take right now to stop contributing to the collective shadow, and it's simpler than you think. The solution, according to Jung, is not to wage war against the evil we see out there, but to commit to self-knowledge and wholeness right here, right now. We have to assimilate our own shadow material. The individual must know relentlessly how much good he can do and what crimes he is capable of. When you understand your own capacity for darkness, you become less likely to project it onto others. You become less easily manipulated by collective fear and hatred. Here is the crucial takeaway. The process of healing the collective begins with the single individual. Acknowledge your personal shadow. Enter into that long, difficult negotiation with yourself. Be honest about your emotional reactions and what you resent in others. Rescue those good qualities and potentials that are lying dormant, improving your own life and the lives of those immediately around you. Take responsibility. Once you have a handle on your inner conflicts, you can look out at the world and address the denial, projection, and lack of initiative you see in society without being a passive victim of it. The most potent and feasible way to grapple with a difficult past, whether personal or collective, is truth-telling, speaking what seems unspeakable, and having the courage to hear the pain, outrage, and suffering of others. The courage with which you bear your own darkness frees others from having to carry it for you. We are all co-responsible for the state of the world. By practicing a deep, honest self-awareness, we stop feeding the darkness and start bringing the light of consciousness to it. That is the ultimate act of authenticity. So let me ask you one last time. What is that one trait in others that always sets you off? Find it, look closely, and you might just find the greatest untapped power within yourself. The journey toward wholeness starts right there. If this video has sparked a moment of recognition, please take a second to like it and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And let me know in the comments, what is the first piece of gold you're going to retrieve from your shadow? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe for more free valuable videos.